Hello again, and welcome back to another Sir Slob's deck profile. This week I've got Orcust on the playmat. Debuting in Soul Fusion, Orcust are a World Legacy deck, a lore that has been scattered about some of the Vrains era sets, which in my mind rivals even like the Dual Terminal storyline. Orcust have had a turbulent history, going from barely noticed to a tech choice, then to tier 1, and then finally to kind of their current status, which is Rogue. So let's see if these musical machines still have what it takes to orchestrate victory. So straight on into the monsters. So I'm running 3 Girsu, the Orcust Mekk-Knight. So as you can see, these are not secret rare and are also not English, so I'll put a translation up somewhere over one of these 3 probably. This guy's phenomenal. He came out in the recent Eternity Code set, and his price has been coming down, but I just couldn't justify the cost of it when, you know, a play set of these lovely OCG cost maybe a tenth of what it costs in TCG. So he's an Armageddon Knight when he's normal or special summoned, and he can also special summon a token to your opponent's side of the field and your side of the field if he's the only monster. So he's great. He's a 1-card Galatea or whatever you want to do, and just an incredible addition to the deck. It's a shame we never really saw him with Harp Horror. I can't see Harp Horror coming off anytime soon, but there we go. So I'm running 2 Orcust Knightmare. So Orcust Knightmare is the obvious banish to send a dark machine type monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is obviously great because it's not even just Orcust cards that you can send with that. Some people tend to run 3, but I think it can be a bit of a brick in hand, and we have got ways of getting it out of hand, and it is such a great like extender and stuff, and it's a really good setup, but I've chosen to reduce it for other things. So I'm running 2 Cymbal Skeleton. So Cymbal Skeleton is obviously the banish, special summon from grave. Cymbal Skeleton is really kind of like where you want to be at the end of your turn. You always want a Cymbal Skeleton in graveyard so you can special summon back during your opponent's turn. I think you could have it at 3. I've chosen to only have it at 2 just because I think that 2 is enough to make sure that you've always got one in deck, but also have one in circulation. From there I'm running the 1 Brass Bombard, or Toot as I like to call him. So Toot is a tuner, so you could play Halafibrax plays and stuff like that, but I think if there was one that I definitely... He's been on the chopping block more times than I'd care to admit. But what he can do is he can banish to someone from hand, which can be useful, but I think on balance he might be better out of the deck than in it. From there we're running 2 1s, so we'll look at World 1, so this is banish to summon a banished Orcust monster. So this is obviously just great with the Orcust Knightmare. Again, I think 2 is the kind of standard, whatever you want to call that, number. If you've also got it in hand, if you can dump one of the World 1s to summon the other World 1 out from hand, which I think doesn't really come up that often, but it's always useful to see it, you know, so it doesn't mean that the World 1 is so dead in hand. From there, we're running our kind of best starter of the deck, which is Scrap Recycler. Scrap Recycler is a non-once per turn. If it's summoned, you can send a machine type monster from your deck to your graveyard. And then there we're running the 1 Scrap Golem or Fridge and the 1 Crystron Rosenix to go with the Scrap Recycler. So you send Scrap Recycler, send the Rosenix, banish the Rosenix, get your token, you've got your 2 monsters to go to your Scrap Link monster, and that Scrap Link monster gets your Golem out. I am choosing not to run the Buster Dragon and the Union Carrier in the deck. I think the Buster Dragon adds a bit of a brick. Although Union Carrier could be used for other things, I really hope that at some point it gets hit, be it that Union Carrier or the Buster Dragon. I just think no summoning from the extra deck is absolutely unbelievably good. I also am not really a huge fan of Floodgates, if I'm being honest. I'd rather put a negate out, and at least it feels like, I don't know, somehow that feels like I'm actually interacting, as much as my opponent probably doesn't think the same. Right, so from there we're running a bunch of extenders. So I'm still running the Danger Engine actually. a really, really cut down danger engine. So one Jackalope, one Nessie and one Tsuchinoko. So I think these still have their place in the deck, get stuff out of the hand, drawing and extenders. From there I'm running one Dark Grepher. So we're running quite a few dark cards that are above level 5, so you can get a special summon off. You can discard a card to dump. I was running Armageddon Knight at some point, but you've got quite a few normal summons already. And I actually prefer Dark Grepher because he can be considered an extender. From there, I'm running one Gizmek Orochi, the Serpentron Sky Slasher. Again, this is kind of like your late game close out, and he's an extra body. He's just a genuinely good card. And from there, running two hand traps. So I'm running two Ash Blossom, but again, this could kind of be whatever you'd like it to be. Alright, so spell time. So we're running three orchestrated dollar bills. Why this card is so expensive, I don't really know. I got it, well, I think when it came down, I think, after it was printed, but yes, it's very expensive now. So Orcustrated Return is basically just a draw card. It's great. Send an Orchestra or Will Legacy monster from your hand to draw two cards, and sometimes just the sending will be good enough, but the fact that you get to draw from it as well is great. From there I'm running more draw. So three Allure of Darkness, and again I've cut these down before and bumped them back up again and stuff like that. But really, if you can see Scrap Recycler, you're on for a win. So you know, if you can turbo into that, then why wouldn't you? From there, we're running classically. I'll say it with me. We're saying three Called by the Grave. So Called by the Grave is just such a good card, both offensively and defensively, that I can't see a deck, you know, that wouldn't run it. I think the only time you'd really cut it is if your deck is so super reliant to hand traps, or if you don't have the space, which I suppose could happen. From there we're running a few one-offs, so we're obviously running the Orcustrated Babel. So this makes all your Orcus quick, and if it's in the graveyard, then you can send one card from your hand to the graveyard to add it back to your hand. So it means that you just don't really need to run more than one. Obviously, you know, your Cosmic Cyclone's going to really hurt, but I think that's on the rare occasion. I think if you run more than one, you're just asking for Brick City. So from there, we're running one Foolish Burial. So Foolish Burial just acts as an extender and stuff with Orcust Knightmare. We're running one Monster Reborn, again, just recovery and extension, and the one World Legacy Succession. So this can be searched out using our new World Legacy Link monster, even though I don't actually think it's a World Legacy card, which is great. So I mean, it ends up meaning that you can use Scrap Recycle like 3 times per turn, which is busted. And then finally the one Upstart Goblin, 39 card deck. So I'm on a roll with trap sections here. I mean, it's not a huge one, but I'm running 3 Infinite Impermanence. So although this could be any hand trap, the scrap play requires that you have a card, especially if you're going first, if you have a card to pop, an Infinite Impermanence fills that criteria while also being a hand trap, which I think is beneficial. And then finally, one Orcust Crescendo. So this is, you know, you counter trap if you control an Orcust Link monster, and you can also banish it from your graveyard to add a Dark Machine type monster, which is obviously just great. It's a rotor and a counter trap in one go, and it can be searched. So into the extra deck, I'm running 2 Dingirsu, the Orcust of the Evening Star. So this guy's obviously just incredible. Special summon it over the top of one of your Orcust Link monsters, and if you've burnt up one of its effects or something like that, then just gives you extra pluses. It can either send the monster to the graveyard, which is just non-targeting removal, it's absolutely disgustingly good, or it can attach a banished machine type monster to it as a material, and it's got destruction protection as well. If it wasn't for that, it's just a really, really solid all-round card. From there, running the one Linkuriboh. So this is important for the new Girsu plays because the token is level 1, and Galatea requires to affect monsters, so you need to use Linkuriboh to get to Galatea. From there, I'm running 3 Galatea, and I've seen a lot of people cut this down to 2, but I just think that at some points, you know, you end up going to 2 just on your opening turn, so by that stage you're you know, you don't want to run out of resources. The benefit of this deck is that it can just play forever almost. So Galatea obviously is great. Shuffle a banished machine type monster into the deck to set one of your Orcust spells or traps. It's just really, really good. And they're running our scrap package, so we've got one Scrap Wyvern. So Scrap Wyvern is special summon a scrap monster from your graveyard, then destroy one card you control. If scrap monster is destroyed, you can special summon a scrap monster from deck and then destroy a card in the field. Scrap Wyvern, well, Scrap Recycler into Scrap Wyvern ends up with like 6 materials or something like that. It's absolutely bananas. And one of the cards that we're going to from that scrap combo is Lib, the World Keyblade Master. So this is kind of, in my eyes, the replacement to World Chalice Justicar. It does a very similar thing. It's 2 monsters, but you have to control a World Legacy monster in the, World Legacy card in the graveyard. And while you can set a World Legacy card from your deck, but you can only activate it if you control that World Legacy card. So it's a really unusual set of summoning criteria, but it's genuinely really good. So it's a Monster Reborn, and it's also, if it's sent to the graveyard, you can non-target spin a card as well. So it's just got really good plays. And it goes really well with IP Masquerena. So obviously IP Masquerena is the 2 non-linked monsters, and then you can link in your opponent's turn using monsters you control. So if you use Lib with IP Masquerena, you can go to monsters and then get an additional spin from it. So IP Masquerena can almost count as like 2 disruptions in one. So from there we're going to on link 3s. So I've got one Girsu who comes up occasionally, so shuffle 2 of your banished monsters in, and you can send a linked card to the graveyard, but you can't attack. But if you use that effect, you can obviously go to Dingirsu to go over the top of him. So yeah, he's a good card, and again with the field spell up, you know, he can act as a disruption, but I think it's become a bit less now that there is, you know, Master Rule 5 or 4.1 or whatever you want to call it. From there we're running Knightmare Unicorn, which is generally our IP Masquerena target, and then one Topologic Trisbaena. So again, this one is a target for IP Masquerena. So you go to Trisbaena and then special summon something back to banish all the back row, which again doesn't come up very rarely, but I think you definitely don't want to miss out on that if you end up facing kind of like the back row decks. And on to our link 4s. So we're running one Orcustrated. I think you could probably take this out and put whatever you want in, if I'm being honest, but it's nice to have it. It's kind of like mass effect negation and reduces the monsters to 0, which can be really good for kind of, you know, finish off the duel. Although I think that Borrelsword Dragon and Topologic Zeroboros tend to do what Orcustrated is doing, just better. So obviously Borrelsword Dragon's attack twice, and Zeroboros can banish the entire field, and also it gains attack based on the number of monsters that are banished, so obviously it's got super good utility. So Orcust are really good. They have lost some of the power ceiling that they've had in the past, but if you see a Scrap Recycler resolve, you won't care about what the deck used to be able to do, because most of the time you're going to be winning that game. So I'm giving a 5 out of 5 for relevance. A learned opponent will know to target the field spell and force some of your plays, so you do have to be wary of that. But they are fully deserving of their current rogue tier status. In terms of fun factor, the deck is very fun in my opinion. There are, you know, many different lines that you can try and learn and improve on, and you know, you can incorporate a load of different techs and just generally innovate on the deck. However, what I would say is the main kind of main combo can feel a little linear. So once you've played the deck quite a bit, you are going to be noticing that you are doing the same thing quite a bit, which I suppose is true for any good, consistent deck. So I'm going to give a 4 for that. So the deck's looking really good so far. The only thing that's letting us down is cost here. So for what started out as quite a budget-friendly deck, it certainly isn't now. The current build I've estimated at about $550 based on my lookings from TCG Player. all in all, Orcusts are a phenomenal deck. I've played them since Soul Fusion, and I see absolutely no reason to let the music stop now. So what do you think of the build? Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out my other profiles on the channel.